This is a picture of the Anaheim Ducks. I don't know if you can see it over there. It's signed by Scott Niedermeyer, MVP. This is the first Stanley Cup that Anaheim Ducks won. It's still the only one. It's the oldest cup in sports. It's the ultimate prize for every hockey player and hockey team. And that's what I'm going to talk about today, is the history of the Anaheim Ducks and the different, I guess you'd say, I'd call it, phases it's gone through with its ownership. I've been a Ducks fan for about 10 years now, a season ticket holder for 3. So I've seen a lot of different things happen. And I thought I'd share it with you guys because, I mean, it's one of 2 local Orange County's professional sports teams, and I like to know the heritage or like the history of my city. Today I'll be going over the Walt Disney Company's ownership of the team, the new owners and present owners, the Samuelis, and the current situation of the team today. First thing I'd like to go over is how the Anaheim Ducks became the Anaheim Ducks, or became a team. The Mighty Ducks were founded by the Walt Disney Company in 1993. The NHL offered pretty much Disney like a team because they had, I believe, the Angels already, and the Mighty Ducks movie had just came out, and hockey started growing in Southern California, especially with the trade of Wayne Gretzky to the Kings. It really started growing, so they thought they had a fan base, and Disney was really interested in it. So they paid $50 million, according to NHL.com, to expand the team in Anaheim. The first game was in October of 1993. They played the Detroit Red Wings and lost 7-2. The problem with the Walt Disney Company was that they were making most of their money off of the ticket sales and all the hype of the movies, because it was really popular at the time, and the logo they had was like a duck face, like hockey mask, but it was like with the bill, duck bill, and they made a lot of money off of that, but they never had really a winning season, which affected ticket sales, but merchandising sales kept on going, and that would make the Walt Disney Company stay at the minimum cap space. So they would never go out and get expensive or star players. They would always try to spend the minimum amount they would have to the league, which hurt their performance, but they still did all right. It wouldn't be until the 1996-1997 season, after a short lockout, that the Mighty Ducks, is what they were called at the time, finally would make the playoffs. They won the first round against Phoenix, but they lost the second round to Detroit Red Wings. And the Ducks would make the playoffs 4 times out of the 12 years that Disney owned them. I would say the brightest spot in Disney's ownership of the team would be 2002-2003, when they won the Western Conference Finals and made it to the Stanley Cup. They had a really competitive series against the New Jersey Devils. Each team won its home games, so the Ducks ended up losing in Game 7. And around that time, when they made the conference finals, they were trying to sell the team for a couple years, and they couldn't. And then Walt Disney ended up selling the Angels, I think in 2003 to Artie Moreno, and he changed the name to the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim or whatnot. But the current owners, Henry and Susan Samueli, Henry Samueli was the co-founder of Comcast, and he was a billionaire, and he saw an opportunity. So when after that season, there was another lockout dispute that cost the whole season of hockey, and during that lockout time, that's when they made their move They didn't disclose how much money they sold the Mighty Ducks for, but they believe it's around $60 to $80 million, which is pretty good in my opinion. And that was in 2005. And that, moving on to my main point here, my second point here is the turning point of the franchise when they bought them. The team, after they got bought, drafted a lot of good players, which are still on the team. Corey Perry, Brian Getzloff, and they also brought back Tinu Solani, which was really popular, pretty much the face of the team, but they traded him away to save money, because that's what Disney does. And they made the playoffs the first 4 seasons and have made the playoffs 5 times out of the 7 seasons with the new owners. And it was in 06-07 when the owners decided that they were changing the name from the Mighty Ducks to the Anaheim Ducks. They changed the logo and the team colors. And ironically, in that season, the Ducks won their first division title and got 2nd place in the Western Conference Finals, and ended up beating the Ottawa Senators in 5 games, becoming the first California hockey team to ever win the Stanley Cup. Like I said, Scott Niedermayer, who signed the picture, he was a defenseman, came from New Jersey after the owners decided to spend money and move up from the cap space. He was named the MVP, and if you have some time, I would look up Game 5, because they won it in 5 games, and they just destroyed him in Game 5, and it's the most memorable thing I've ever seen. Was it must have been embarrassing, but the goalie scored on himself somehow, and I'll always remember that, and they still kind of taunt him when he comes to our stadium. But now that I've gone over the history, I'd like to discuss the team's present situation real quick. This season, they're continuing their success after a disappointing season. They sit in 3rd place, or 2nd place in the Western Conference, 3rd in the NHL, and 1st place in the division right now. They just recently broke the record for the most consecutive home games won of 11. This season's team holds the new record with 13, and combined they have 4 shutouts so far this year. And in conclusion, I'd like to say that this team has just begun to tell its story. I mean, with the new owners willing to spend money on top players, there's a bright future for them. And that's it.
This is my
Okay, Bernice, what did you think?
I think you might have lacked, I'll start with the negative, a bit of organization. I wasn't sure at the beginning if you were talking about the history of the Ducks, or if you were talking about their place or team that makes sense. Also, I like your image. You had good visuals. It was a little fast. Didn't really get to see it much. I think your strong points were it was a good summary, and you explained this how they won the Stanley Cup. It was good. Yeah, probably my concern was the organization of your presentation.
Okay. Well, I think the strongest things in the speech are in the opening section, where you have the visual reference to the team You're talking about your personal involvement with the team. You give us a good justification because it's the local team. And you've got a pretty good preview of what you're going to talk about. It's going to be kind of a chronological, historical review of the key events that reflect the team, which I thought was good, except that once you got to those points, I understand what Bernice is talking about. It felt like you wandered around a little bit on those points without getting the point. And sometimes it felt like we were going backwards and forwards on those points as well. The criticism of Disney ownership: Disney created the team, they marketed the team, here's what their accomplishments were, but Disney was unwilling to make this kind of commitment to the team because they viewed it mostly as a financial investment as opposed to something that they were emotionally passionate about. Or maybe it was about the Disney company and the way it was run at that particular time or something like that. There's just got to be a clearer explanation of it. As it is, it's just, well, Disney created it and they had some players and they made the playoffs 4 times in the 12 years that they were there, but they didn't really seem committed because they didn't want to spend the money. When you say they didn't want to spend the money, where's that from? Who said that? How do you know that? I'm sure you did some research on it. I'm sure that you could look and find out what the payroll was for the Ducks in the first 5 years compared to other teams in the league or other teams in the conference or the division or the area or any of those kinds of things and make some comparisons. And then make that argument. How did Disney expect to have a competitive team when they spent half as much as this other team did to get talent? Well, they didn't. However, they did sell a hell of a lot of jerseys with these Duck logos on them, and so they said, we're making money on this. As long as we're making money on it, we're okay with, how the team does, that sort of thing. But if there was a point, what was the tipping point where Disney finally said it's not enough money, or it's too complicated, or was it, did the fans get antsy, or did they have, a financial loss, or was Disney? I don't know why Disney ended up selling. If it was making them money and that model was going to work for them, why did they end up selling it in the first place? I never get any information about that. So I thought that was a little problematic. The new team owner seems like that's a key point, and same sort of thing. You need to kind of get on each of those points and tell us what's important on each of those points. You're kind of just leading us down this path, and sometimes we're going to go over here and look a little bit, and sometimes we're going to go over here and look a little bit, instead of saying, here's what we ought to be looking for on each of those points. Here's where the Disney company screwed up. Here's where here's where they were successful. Here's where they screwed up. Here's where the new company is vastly different. Here's how they succeeded, and here's the glorious end point that we're going to go to. And it really feels a lot more like you're focused when you do something like that, as opposed to meandering through the subject. The visuals. We get the one picture at the beginning. It's your attention device, and that's the last visual reference that we get there. A timeline, like a comparison on the payrolls, for instance, might have been a good thing when you're talking about that. You're sitting here describing to us the logo of the Mighty Ducks. Why do you have to do that? There are thousands of pictures out there of that thing. Now, a lot of people in here will probably remember that logo, so it's not that old, so a lot of people remember it. But why should you have to describe it? That's something. Where's that picture from a magazine? Where's the jersey that you bought when you were 10? Where's the picture on the internet that you could use to show those kinds of things? It just didn't seem like the visuals were planned very much, and so that's an obvious weakness because there's just not much visual information in the presentation. All right, thank you guys for your patience here. We will see you on Thursday. And those of you who did written evaluations, remember to leave them with me before you go. Do you have an outline?
Oh, yeah.